The #1 question I get asked on the internet is how to make consistent, actionable progress drawing with pen and ink. And more specifically, how to draw cleanly without making mud. If you've ever wondered why some doodles look like masterpieces, even though they're essentially just scribbles, well, the answer has to do with shading. Shading is a technique, and technique is something that anyone can learn and apply right away. With pen and ink, shading goes a long way to making a drawing look really good. So what makes a great doodle? 2 things: confidence and clarity. Confidence means being intentional with your mark making. Intention leads to clarity. For example, you may be familiar with the term chicken scratches. And fair enough, when sketching using a pencil, we're constructing a drawing. We're trying to find the best lines, then go over them with an inking pen. At the end, the pencil lines get erased. No one sees the chicken scratches that lead to the finished artwork. When doodling, the objective is to quickly capture what you see or what's in your head, so why not take that opportunity to go straight to ink? With ink, each mark on the paper communicates something to the viewer. This doesn't mean each mark must be perfectly executed. A confident mark is more about economy. If you can use one intentional stroke instead of a bunch of tentative ones, then this communicates confidence. For example, in this doodle, note how in the foreground, the master used only a few confident strokes to describe blades of grass. Confidence leads to clarity. What is clarity? Clarity is when you can immediately, at a glance, read a drawing. Your brain automatically understands what's going on in the composition. Even though there's no refinement or details here, all of these marks are there to suggest what you see. We can very quickly identify what the objects are, what the subjects are doing, what's in front in the picture plane, and what's positioned further away. With pen and ink, you're working with black marks and white space. And without shading techniques, objects that are drawn in front of one another or behind can turn to mud and just be confusing. I mentioned that with pen and ink, we're working with black and white. In this picture plane, we have a subject in the foreground, some mountains in the middle ground, and the third layer is the sky further in the background. The trick is to alternate the overlapping layers, light over dark or dark over light. Combinations that use solid black or solid white work well for silhouette drawing styles. Some are simple and others more complex. Some combinations of black and white don't work, like the foreground and the background overlap in a way that makes inking it overly complex to execute with clarity. If we otherwise look at black and white as values, then white means 100% in the light, and black means it gets 0% light, no light. Either the object is in shadow or that object is actually a darker color. Somewhere in the middle, we get a gray value. This gives us more options. The overlap principles remain the same, alternating between lighter and darker values, except now we have a third option with this 50% gray. In this example, I rendered the gray value using strokes, all going in the same direction. It works if you alternate the layers, but our doodle turns to mud if you go gray over gray. You might encounter this problem when drawing from observation. In this photo, the fellow is a black silhouette. The mountains are also solid black, and the sky has lots of white, and the remainder of the environment is gray. Visually, we can read this doodle because of how the main subject is framed in the composition. In the second photo, the fellow is gray on top of gray with more of the same gray, and now I have mud. A solution to this problem is to vary the stroke direction. Same 50% intensity of gray, but by alternating the stroke angles, the overlaps become clearer to see. This stays true no matter what combinations you use to shade your doodle. So if our guy was wearing a green shirt, the exact same green as the background, we could still doodle the subject convincingly in pen and ink by simply varying the stroke direction. But it still takes a few seconds for the brain to separate the foreground from the background. It almost looks like he has wings. A solution to this is to vary the levels of gray. Spread the strokes further apart for a 25% gray, closer together and bolder for a 75% gray. Same stroke direction, but alternating the gray levels in each overlap, and we gain more clarity. We can get even more options by using a full range of grays combined with strokes that alternate directions. The key to preserving clarity when mixing stroke direction and values is making sure that the value levels all match in the same intensity. So all the level 2s match one another, all the level 3s, and so on, regardless of the stroke angle, keeping in mind that having too many options can turn badly. But if you plan your values, then you'll get great doodles. So just black and white gives us less options, but it's easier to make things clear. Then we gradually gain more options, but also more planning is required to keep things clear. These shading combination techniques are very useful when planning out illustration projects. As we saw from these two reference photos, we discovered potential problems by doing the thumbnail experiments. Regardless of the illustration style that you're interested in, doodly or more calculated like a Franklin Booth, even Master Booth starts every project by shading thumbnail sketches. In this video, I cover the key processes on how to shade your doodles to make them instantly more readable. If you're interested in going through all the steps with the exercises so that you can practice with me, in the video description below, you'll find links to where you can take this as a course. And now back to the shading lesson. We can use that as a baseline to talk about light and shadow. The lighting starts to matter more when drawing objects in 3 dimensions. With our light source on the top left-hand corner, according to our value scale, white is the closest to the light, then progressively darker further from the light. Solid black for the shadows. The same principles from the previous exercise apply here with the stroke direction. If the value levels make sense, the brain registers that the object is 3D regardless of stroke direction. The thing is, we do not see objects. What is visible to us is the lighting. Most objects produce no light. Their visibility depends on the amount of light reflected from them. So as an artist, how you use lighting and shading can reveal a lot about your subject. When I turn our box into a house, I'll shade the parts that are furthest from the light and obstructed from the light. The front door, the roof, the side windows, the roof overhang, and the shadow the house casts on the ground plane. The ground plane plays a bigger role when your subject is part of a composition. We saw earlier that different stroke directions and value levels bring more clarity when using overlaps to describe a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. We said the light communicates by reflecting on the object. So how does the light source interact with those layers? The solution with pen and ink is to create gradations. Your marks fade from light to dark. Use solid black for whatever's blocked from the light, and from there, you can make decisions about how you want to shade the overlaps using the techniques that we practiced in the previous lesson. The only difference is how those layers of gray interact with the direction of light. In your sketchbook or exercise sheet, wherever you have space, draw a rectangle and shade it using diagonal strokes. This time in a gradation from level 1 to level 5 value, then with vertical strokes. diagonal in the other direction. For horizontal strokes, the techniques for a gradual fade effect using lines is slightly different, but not complicated. You add lines between the lines to build the shading. Repeat the exercise without the rectangle to get a feel for it. First, we created a shading chart using different combinations of value levels and stroke directions. The purpose was to bring clarity when objects overlap in a composition. We then looked at shading three-dimensional objects based on the source of light. We then used various gradations of values, which not only gave us a foreground, middle ground, and background, it gave our doodles a sense of depth. So, more clarity. Let's talk about round subjects because light reflects differently based on the shape of the object. The linear shading techniques we've used so far make this subject look flat. One solution is to leave white space to indicate a highlight. Curve your strokes around the form and it becomes a sphere. Add a gradation of values and that doodle looks pretty convincing. Let's practice the gradual value scale using curved strokes in different directions. We talked about how to bring clarity to your doodles using shading techniques, and we've done repetitions to train for more confident strokes. Circles are more challenging, so let's take a moment here. The trick is to hold your pen vertically and lock your wrist. Aim to close the loop. Avoid crossing lines. It's hard to fix a circle with cross lines. It's better to leave a gap. A gap can be easily fixed to close the loop. With that in mind, let's practice shading our round subjects. A circle for the head, triangles for the ears, a tube for the neck, big circle for the body. Attach some arms and triangles for the hands. Oh, another tube for the leg, and the second leg smaller so it looks like he's walking, and attach some feet. We'll put some black under the chin, under the belly, and this hand would be all in shadow with the light source on the top left-hand corner. So the values fade light to dark, left to right on the subject, and we're using curved strokes. Do another shading variation. We'll give this guy a slightly longer neck so the cast shadow is more obvious. I used stronger highlights and deeper shadows. More contrast makes the subject look more round. Go ahead and shade the third fellow on your own. I hope that you enjoyed learning about the different stages of shading techniques and that you feel confident to make consistent, actionable progress with your pen and ink practice. We learned what makes a clean doodle and how to avoid mud by using different combinations of values and stroke directions to shade overlapping layers, light over dark or dark over light. We learned about how the light source interacts with objects. We learned that these shading techniques are useful to more accurately represent your ideas, whether you're doing thumbnail concepts or pursuing a doodly approach as your signature art style. I wish you all the best with your pen and ink practice, and I'll see you in the next one.